For weeks, intense diplomatic efforts have been underway behind closed doors as mediators work to broker a peace agreement between the United States and Iran that is aimed at ending the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And now reports suggest that both the sides have moved significantly closer to a breakthrough, with negotiators reportedly agreeing on the draft of a memorandum of understanding that could extend the fragile ceasefire for 60 days and open the door for formal negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, sanctions relief, and regional security issues. However, despite the optimism surrounding the proposed agreement, uncertainty still remains, as US Vice President J.D. Vance has confirmed that while major progress has been made, the framework still awaits final approval from President Donald Trump. And speaking to the reporters, Vance said that discussions were continuing over several language-related issues and added that it was difficult to say exactly when or even if President Donald Trump would formally sign the memorandum. Meanwhile, Iran's international news agency, quoting a source close to Tehran's negotiating team, reported that the text of the agreement has not yet been fully finalized. Iranian officials have also stressed that no deal should be considered official until it is formally announced by Tehran itself, rather than through statements coming from Washington. Reports further indicate that Pakistan and Qatar have played a major role in mediating the negotiations between the two countries. And if the agreement is eventually finalized, it will serve as an initial framework for broader and potentially lengthy negotiations that could shape the future of Iran's nuclear program, determine the fate of US sanctions, and possibly bring a formal end to the conflict. And one of the most important aspects of the proposed deal involves the Strait of Hormuz, that is one of the world's most critical oil shipping routes. And according to the reports, the agreement would ensure unrestricted commercial shipping through the strait without tolls, harassment, or military interference. Iran is expected to remove all the sea mines from the waterway within 30 days, while the United States would gradually ease or lift its naval blockade once the normal commercial traffic resumes. However, both the sides appear to have different interpretations of how quickly all those restrictions would actually be removed. Iranian officials claim that the blockade would end within 30 days, while American officials suggest sanctions relief and naval easing would happen in stages depending on Iran's actions. Another central issue in the negotiation is Iran's nuclear program, and under the proposed agreement, Iran would commit to not pursuing the development of nuclear weapons, while both the countries would begin negotiations on the future of Iran's uranium stockpile and enrichment activities. Reports also suggest that one of the first priorities during the 60-day negotiation period would be deciding what happens to nearly 970 pounds of highly enriched uranium currently held by Iran, along with around 10 tons of lower enriched nuclear material. Well, the agreement is also expected to include discussions on sanctions relief and access to frozen Iranian assets held abroad. Iran reportedly has nearly $24 billion frozen in overseas banks and is seeking access to as much as $20 billion of all those funds. Negotiators are also working on mechanisms that would allow humanitarian aid, essential goods, and commercial supplies to enter Iran more freely during the talks. Another sensitive part of the proposed agreement focuses on Lebanon and the ongoing conflict involving Hezbollah and Israel. Reports indicate that the draft may contain provisions that is aimed at reducing hostilities and eventually ending the war between Israel and Hezbollah. The issue has reportedly led to the tense discussions between President Donald Trump and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, especially as Israel has recently intensified military operations against the Iran-backed group. Perhaps the most surprising element of the proposed agreement is the inclusion of a massive international investment and reconstruction program for Iran. And according to the reports, the United States could help facilitate a $300 billion investment fund if a final peace agreement is reached. Iranian officials reportedly proposed opening the country to American investment, including partnerships with major US oil, energy, and infrastructure companies through joint ventures and reconstruction projects. Despite the progress, several major disagreements will remain unresolved, and reports also suggest that it is still unclear whether both the countries are even working from the exact same draft document. Questions also remain over who within Iran has the final authority to formally approve the agreement. There are also significant differences in how each side views the ceasefire itself. And according to the American officials, the proposed memorandum mainly establishes a temporary 60-day halt in the hostilities in order to allow negotiations to continue. And Iranian officials, however, claim that the agreement includes a broader declaration ending hostilities on all the fronts, including Lebanon, and serves as the first step towards a more permanent settlement. And for now, Negotiators continue to work through the remaining disputes in hopes of finalizing what could become one of the most significant diplomatic agreements in the recent Middle East history. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel.